Once again, welcome everybody to today's webinar. This is a sneak peek webinar. This webinar gives you a little glimpse into some of the programming that will take place at the 2017 NAA Student Housing Conference, which will take place February 14th and 15th in Chicago, Illinois. And that's just in 2 months. This event really is the best way for your team to tap into vital industry know-how and discover the latest and greatest products and solutions in the industry. Add in a city with major appeal and you've got a top-notch trip that will pay dividends the whole year long. If you are considering attending, I would urge you to register by tomorrow, Friday, December the 16th. Take advantage of our early rate. That's an outstanding $300 in savings. And if you're coming with a team, there are team rates available. And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you our esteemed panel. Laurie Lyons joined Cardinal Group Management in 2014 as a partner with nearly 30 years of experience in the multifamily industry. Laurie's experience began as an on-site manager and continued with acquisitions and asset management for BH Equities. She was also the co-founder and the CEO of BH Management Services, a top 500 management company. Nicole Salmieri joined WinnCompanies in August 2015 and brings over 28 years of multifamily marketing and operations expertise to her current role as Senior Director of Marketing. She's currently responsible for developing and implementing digital and marketing strategies, including overseeing national marketing initiatives to ensure consistency of brand and marketing activity. Irini Boeder joined Lincoln Property Company in 2011 and currently serves as Assistant Vice President of Marketing. She's responsible for property branding, social media, and market positioning throughout the execution of successful marketing campaigns. Prior to Lincoln, as a marketing specialist at Waterton Residential, she played a key role in the execution of marketing strategy. Last but not least, Francis Chow leads the development, data analysis, and rollout of Ellis's customer experience platform, which focuses on improving property performance by creating loyal residents. As Chief Strategy Officer of Ellis and co-founder of Renter's Voice, Mr. Chow brings 20 years of experience in customer analytics and financial management as Chief Financial Officer of several growth companies. Francis is our moderator this afternoon, so I will now turn the conversation over to him. Hello, Francis. How are you?
Oh, good. Thank you. Thanks for having us today, Clark.
Delighted to have you all join me today.
Great. So a while back, I attended SMU in Dallas, Texas, and it was pretty interesting. When they require you in the first year to live on campus, and after the first year, you can go out and kind of search, where you want to live, off-campus accommodations, and so forth. And what was interesting back then is that you really didn't have any ILSs. We didn't have anything that would allow us to really see what was going on, unlike today. But what we did was we talked to our friends and family members and people that were in our classes to see where they were living, and that's how we would choose our apartment. And SMU is in the downtown part of Dallas, and what you can see here is that, there's 55 apartment communities within 10 minutes of campus, right? And so now we're starting to really understand that today the landscape has changed quite a bit. And what we're trying to figure out here, and really trying to talk about during this panel, is how do you create an experience and really match up what your prospects are looking for versus what you have. So to start off the conversation, I thought I'd ask a question to our panelists, and I'll start with Irini. What are today's renters looking for?
Hi, Francis. Thank you for having me on today. Yeah, in terms of what renters are looking for, we at Lincoln Property Company, we did a nationwide survey of about 120,000 renters across the country. And we found that the top two things that renters really want are high-speed internet access and ample parking. That kind of surprised me, but at the same time, the parking is going to be specific region by region, but I guess across the board, not terribly surprising. So 94% of our surveyed renters wanted these two things. Not too far after, walk-in closets ranked really highly, soundproof walls, and in-unit washers and dryers were quickly following those first two. You know, we also found that from the trending amenities that were kind of newer in the market, renters really wanted to see, about 81% wanted to see smart thermostats in their apartment homes, and then 76% wanted pre-installed Wi-Fi in their apartments, which doesn't surprise me at all.
Great. Nicole, what are your thoughts on this?
So thank you, Francis, for inviting me to the panel also today. So as we look at our customer landscape, we have about 100,000 units across our military and residential portfolio. We are early in understanding from a customer perspective specifics that they're looking for as far as amenities. We are more focused right now on creating that connection from a service level. And what we're finding is our customer base is looking for a product that offers value, that they find value in that through the level of service that we provide. Our response times to them is key when they have an issue that they need resolved. What we are finding in some of our metro markets are, you know, quick access to public transportation is important. They look at that as an amenity, not necessarily an Uber, but public transportation. Most of our younger renters today are streaming, so internet is more important than cable ever was. And places where they can actually congregate, like communal spaces where they can gather. Many of our floor plans in our major metro markets, the footprint of that floor plan may be a little on the smaller side in these markets, so they're looking for an extension of their current living space.
Great. Well, thank you. And that kind of brings me to kind of my next point here is, you know, when we take a look at college or university like SMU and with 55 apartments, you know, Wi-Fi is pretty much in all these student housing accommodations, apartments. You know, we're talking about some living area amenities, walk-in closets, so forth, and even parking, right? So the question really is how do we differentiate each community, right, from another community that may be across the street, right? And really what Gartner said at best is that customer experience is a new competitive battlefield. So when we think about that, we all have these features, we all have these benefits, but the key is to really focus on the value you bring to the lives of your residents, right? So really an individual approach because Wi-Fi or a pool might mean something different for somebody who goes to SMU versus somebody who might go to ASU, right? And so different people have different views on features and benefits, and really the key is to really identify what is really of value to your prospects, to your students, and to your residents. So when we think about that, right, we think about connecting, you know, throughout what we call the resident life cycle or the student life cycle, we measure it in terms of loyalty. And what happens is at the very beginning, you start off with no loyalty in the marketing component, and as you move up throughout the resident life cycle, your loyalty actually goes up in the first 90 days, and then after the first 90 days, it typically goes down, takes a nosedive down. And what we found is that you really have to have a really good first impression, or you're never going to be able to create a great experience throughout the resident journey. Another way said is that if you can't make a good first impression, you'll never make a positive impression going forward. Okay? So this is what our surveys have told us, is that in order, again, to have a great journey and have great loyalty, you have to have a great first impression. So when we think about how do we create that first impression, it really comes down to interaction with your prospect, right? So we definitely can have no interaction, right? So somebody calls in and says, hey, I'm interested in this, you know, this bed, and you don't call them back, or you don't answer that internet lead. The other piece is that they might call in or send an internet request in, and then it's what we call a routine interaction. It's a corporate branded response It's, you know, you just give them the basics. And really what we're looking for is that connected interaction. And that connected interaction is just so important because that's what really differentiates yourself from the accommodations or the communities across the street. So with a connected interaction, what we're seeing is prospects, residents, students are willing to pay more, convert faster, stay longer, and refer friends. And those are the 4 things that throughout our data set that we see when you have a connected interaction. So when you think about the power of these connected interactions, here is a mixed property of students and professionals in Denver. When we started surveying them in year 1, they had 83 residents that loved them. Okay, they had 230 residents that did not love them. They weren't even satisfied. And what they did was they took our survey results, they took all the feedback they got from other platforms and so forth, and they responded to each one within 24 hours. And what they found was that it wasn't about solving issues, it was about communicating. And over a year's time, what ended up happening was they converted the resident base to 216 residents that loved them and 74 residents that did not love them. So a dramatic shift in sentiment in 1 year just by responding and interacting with each student, with each resident. What we also found was the days vacants went down, the rent per square foot went up, and so all the metrics were really good. And this is all just by connecting. Okay. So when we think about how we look at this data and how it really, you know, comes down to from marketing to resident, we really have to look at, you know, when leads come in, how do we deal with them as a lead? How do we deal with them to convert them from a lead to a prospect, and how do we convert them from a prospect to a resident? So think about this funnel, and every time you don't do something well, then the pool of people participating or wanting to, you know, lease at your community goes down. So it's really important to have this efficient funnel, per se, to make sure that you're able to get everybody that has come to look at the community to actually rent as a renter. Okay. So when we think about leads, right, and that's what we're going to cover today, when we think about leads, how are your leads coming to you? Laurie gave us some stats. Laurie, do you have those stats in front of you by chance?
I do. Our leads by the phone are about 26%. Internet is 60%, which is a combination of online guest cards and the email, all internet. And then walk-in is 14%.
Okay. So it looks like, you know, the data that we're getting is that for students, you know, internet is a big component of the traffic. I was actually at a community down in Dallas yesterday, right by SMU, and a mom came in with her son, walked in and said, hey, I want to look at apartments for my son. So again, those walk-ins are really important, but today what we're going to talk about is, hey, the phone interaction and the internet interaction component. So the question is when we think about the internet interaction and the phone interaction, how do we portray, you know, how to be responsive, how do we convey trust, convey that we care, that the process is easy and that we're compassionate, it's clean, basically everything that a student or a resident would be looking for, right? And if you think about it, you don't have that much time to convey what you're all about, but at the end of the day, that's really what you want to convey because that's really where the value is, right? So everybody has a pool, but how do you translate that into, hey, this pool is really for you, right? And in terms of benefits and features because you value that, right? So in order to do that, we have to do a few things, right? So for internet leads and for phone calls, what we found is that there's an optimum level of response rates and the optimal level call length, okay? So let's start with the internet, which is on the left-hand side. And really what we're talking about here is, hey, when an internet lead comes in, respond to it and respond to it timely, right? So in this case, if you respond 85%, and this is one of our top tier clients, 85% of the internet leads that came in, they responded within 2 hours. Okay, and that's good. We've had clients that, they only respond to 20% of internet leads that come in. And at that point, you basically lost 80% of your leads, and you're only gaining 20%. Now, when you get to the next phase of, hey, I've actually answered the lead, the next question is did you answer their questions, and did you provide value? Or were you grammatically correct? And our good clients, right, 75% did that. But we've had clients that, again, in the 20% range, in the 30% range. So what ends up happening is A, you answer, but B, you don't answer, you don't address their needs. And so you don't have the ability to sell them on the value and on what you have. So that's one thing that's really important, is really answering those questions timely and answering them to portray value and creating a personal response. Our data tells us that if you create a personalized message, answering questions, that your rate of conversions is significantly higher than if you have a canned response. Okay? And it comes down to how many leads you need for marketing too. The second piece is the phone call piece, right? So we, for our student properties that we do shops for, we found that the optimum call length is 7 minutes and 35 seconds. And some of you might think, wow, that's really like a long time. But what you have to remember is that this day and age, these students are researching online, and the reason that they're not maybe filling out an online guest card, or they're not submitting an internet lead, is because they want more information. And so they're forced to call. Even though they don't like to call, they're forced to call. And so one of the big things that we found is that when you have somebody who listens to what the prospect wants, the student wants, you have somebody who takes that information, addresses it, provides value, and kind of goes through, hey, what do you what do you exactly want in an apartment, and here's what we have, and mirror the two. You have some really good conversion rates. And that's really what we're talking about here, is really trying to optimize and converting people from leads to prospects, right? So somebody who will tour the apartment or lease based on that phone call. Okay. So as we think through this, we're going to kind of ask the three panelists here what their on-site teams are doing to create a great first impression. So Nicole, let's start with you. And what are you guys doing?
So just to kind of echo some of what Laurie has shared, we at Win are seeing about 66% of our traffic is actually coming through email communication, wanting to learn more about a particular community. So because this volume is so high, we've actually spent a lot of time building a very unique measurement tool to measure how our teams are responding to leads that are coming in. So for communities that are above 95% occupied, we're requiring our teams to respond a little bit longer in time, which doesn't fit into your 2-hour window. Many of those communities might be on extensive waiting lists, not open every day, so they are to respond within 12 hours. For our communities that are below 95%, they are required to respond within 2 hours of the customer reaching out, wanting to get more information about the community. We've built tools for our on-site teams to use to help them form and craft the perfect response, along with tips and tricks to customize their communication by really creating that value and that customer connection in hopes of generating that appointment to get that prospect in the door. So those would be the tools that we have in place currently.
Great. Irini, how about your group over there?
Yeah, so before the renter even sets foot on the property, we're always pushing to make a great first impression online. We know that that's really, truly where that first impression lies. We recognize, that online reviews are critical. Everyone's going to see that pretty immediately as soon as they do any research on the property. So we have a pretty strong focus at Lincoln on online reviews, optimizing those, and making sure that we've got the best foot forward. Response time on those is very critical as well. We're focused on responding within a 48-hour period. And not only reviews, but just the overall property branding and photography. I think those three things, the reviews, the branding, and the photography, are what people look at first glance. And we all know that people's attention spans are very, very short. So we pretty much want people to get an idea of what it means to live at the property or at that community within seconds of seeing us online. You know, just to understand, is this the right fit for me? Is this, you know, the impression that we want to make on the renter is critical for us online. And then, you know, once we get the renters to the property, one of the things that we do at all of our communities is we try to incorporate technology into our leasing experience. We know how much technology plays into our residents' lives and how important it is to them, so we want to show them that it's important to us too. And so we do a lot of iPad leasing, touch screens, you know, the obvious of online applications and leasing, but even transit screens in our core urban markets where we're tracking public transit or Uber availability tends to kind of really impress people and wow them at first glance, saying, you know, hey, they've thought about this, they've figured out what my needs are, and, you know, leaving a good impression on them. And then, you know, as Nicole mentioned, probably the most important, and as you mentioned, Francis, the high levels of customer service. So our residents are really looking for a value proposition, and they want to see that through high levels of customer service. And so, you know, we're pretty focused on what we call delighting our residents. So we want to make sure that when they leave our community or leave a conversation with one of our staff members, they feel delighted. You know, they feel like they're walking away with a positive experience, and we want to make them feel good. I mean, in today's world, we know that everybody thinks that, you know, the renters feel like we owe them something, and we do. We owe them that high level of customer service, so we really strive for that as well.
Great. Thanks, Irini. How about you, Laurie?
Well, like some of the ideas that you've already heard, our first goal is to really get people engaged when they get to our websites. And so we have a, you know, in-house videographer, and so we try to have live video footage and try to make the website a lot more active, and so that the people that are looking can be engaged, and it's more, it looks real. We try to steer away as much as we can from the canned websites that are out there. So at minimum, we try to do custom websites and then put on a lot of the videos that will really show the lifestyle that we're trying to project that they can see. So that's the first thing we do. And then the next thing that we do is once we get them in, we have our seawall training, which is what we call the Cardinal way of leasing. And we have really streamlined it, like you heard that Lincoln does also, but really streamlined the training down to, you know, there's basically 3 kind of bullet points when people are calling or when they come in, and they're what we call the gotta says. And we did spent several $100,000 on some research, went outside of our industry to really take a look at sales in particular and find out, you know, what was it that we had to ask and when did we ask it in order to be able to close. And then we took a lot of that to bring it and brought it back into the pitch to be able to close like any salesman does, regardless of what they're selling. And we kind of call those our gotta says, and that's through our training. And then we have ongoing certifications in addition to the secret shops and things like that. But in order for people to continue to be a salesperson with us, they are still shopped throughout the year, and then they have to be able to pass all the certifications to make sure that we're really asking the right 2 or 3 gotta says and not getting muddled with all the other things that are really not important and really will not lead to a close. And then while the residents are on the property, a couple of things that we do is we have a, you know, are finding that we're having some really great luck with our Facebook for the properties and really getting residents to be engaged with that. And so that's something that we can share, as soon as somebody comes in and visits or they're on our website, we can, you know, get them connected into the property Facebook so that they can start to see what people are posting when they're at our events, or just to see that there is a real neighborhood engagement going on. And then we focused also on you know, all of our offices and models and everything, really going towards what we call the, you know, the 4 senses, sight, sound. You know, we want to make sure that when they come in, the office smells the right smell, and we do a lot of different research on that, so that the smell, the music that's being played, and all of those things are really projected to the targeted profile of what we're looking for, so it matches and they can sort of identify with that. And then we stand up and greet everybody. We have concierge, but most importantly, we don't have like desks at most of our offices where people come in and they walk up to the desk. We instead get up, walk, and greet them. And so wherever we can, we put more of a concierge top desk, which is more like what you'd see in a hotel, where it's a stand-up desk and it's a little bit higher, so people, we can just step around it to greet the people and bring them up to it. And that's kind of a combination of what we do, from the first touch of, you know, getting online and looking at us, all the way to how we follow up with them and then closing on the leads.
Great. Well, thank you. So our half hour is almost up. So what we've just given you a sneak preview of kind of what we're going to be talking about at the panel in February. What we're going to be talking about in February is going to be more expanded, but it's also going to talk about the on-site tour and the movement and how we create a great first impression there as well. So I hope to see you guys all there. Clark, before I pass over to you or to terminate this, do you have any other comments?
I just wanted to thank Laurie, Nicole, Irini, and you, Francis, for really walking us through your processes. I think it's fascinating, and I'm sure our attendees appreciate it. I wanted to let everybody know that the webinar has been recorded, and we're going to post it to our event website. You'll receive a follow-up email with a link to that recording in a couple of days, so don't worry if you missed anything. There will be a way to find your way back to all the details. If you're coming in Chicago, and we sure hope you are, please make sure you register by tomorrow to take advantage of the early bird savings. Register by, I'm sorry, a lot of times we find that companies send teams, and I believe that there are discounts for 5 or more. So if there are others coming in your organization, it's worth your while definitely to coordinate and take advantage of the group pricing. And with that, I'll just say thanks to everybody, including our panelists and all of our attendees, for tuning in today. I wish everybody a happy holiday, and I look forward to seeing you all in February in Chicago. Take care, everyone. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Happy holidays.